You are listening to The Rant with David King.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Rant. I'm your host, David King. This is the new format where I spitball. It is The Rant, after all. And we're talking about TGL Golf. We're 2 games in. If you haven't heard about it, it's the new golf league created by Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. At least they kind of are the guys that put this thing together and got it in motion. It's arena golf, so it's a simulator style golf. Now, when this first came into fruition, they were talking about this kind of appeared on the scene right around the same time that LIV did. It was almost as if like the PGA was trying to compete with LIV to some degree. When it came onto the scene and they were saying, hey, we're going to do this league of golf and it's going to be in a simulator, I thought, well, that just sounds stupid. Now, I love golf. Golf is one of my favorite things to play. I would play golf every day if I could. I would live literally on a golf course, not in the sense that my house would be on the golf course. Like I would sleep on a fairway. That's how much I love golf. I just love it. It's everything about it, being outside, being in, to me personally, I love golfing by myself. I just love to be on a course alone, taking it all in, smelling the fresh air, hearing the birds, and just me and my ball, just hitting it and going for it. I love it. Golf is awesome. It's also extremely hard and frustrating, but it is awesome. It is a weird sort of sport. So they want to do this simulator. And I have golfed on simulators. Like I've gone to these indoor golfing places where you can hit balls on a simulator. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, that sounds boring. Like I'm just going to stand, like I'm going to sit here and watch a guy hit a golf ball into a screen. Like how's that going to work? Now, I will admit, I did not do a whole lot of digging into research. I didn't follow up. I didn't pay attention. I didn't even, I forgot that this thing was even starting. If it wasn't a text from my father-in-law who said, hey, TGL is on TV, check it out. It's actually kind of cool. I was like, oh yeah, that's starting back up. So here we are. What are the thoughts? What do I think about TGL? Well, first of all, it subverted my expectations. I thought it was better than I expected. I love the setup. I love the dynamic. I like that it's in the arena. The crowd had a lot of energy. There's music playing. I think the most impressive thing to me is the green. The green is so cool. The fact that they can change the green depending on whatever hole they're on. It has elevation changes. It's got this mechanical thing underneath it. That to me is so awesome. This TGL setup changes golf for the future. Even if TGL doesn't work and it just falls flat on its face and it's like, yeah, well, we tried. The technology that they're getting from this, the things that they have developed from this will carry over into, the way we practice in golf, the way we can play golf. Can you play? I grew up in Michigan. You get 3, maybe 4 months of solid golf, right? I live in the South now. I'm in Georgia and we can get 12 months of golf. So it's not hard for you to continue to play golf in Georgia. In fact, sometimes, in many cases, some courses don't even open up until the winter. Augusta National comes to mind. So you get a lot of golf, right? You can play a lot. But if you live in Michigan, you don't get a lot of golf. In fact, you get very little golf. And so it's hard to be consistent. And you're forced to go into like an indoor range and practice and hit balls. Well, that's fine, but it gets kind of boring. And everybody knows that going to a driving range is not really the best way to practice. I mean, they have created these ways to practice and get better at the range, but really the best way to get better is just to go on the course and play. Put yourself in situations and learn how to get out of it. And if you're playing by yourself, you can drop multiple balls and just practice getting out of that situation. This TGL technology could potentially change the way we can practice. Facilities could be built where now we can play on a simulator and then go to a green, right? We can go to a real green that changes. Maybe each day, maybe the green is set up a certain way permanently because it might be hard to change the elevation constantly. Some of these facilities may not have the ability to do that, but they could, right, in the future. That could be amazing. They could have miniature versions of this. And they already kind of do. Like they're already you can get a home simulator now where it's like a 4x8, a 4 foot by 8 foot putting mat. And it can actually change pitch, right? Like one side can lift up, one side can go down. And now you have all these different putts, and there's like an overhead projector that kind of shows you the path of your ball, or it shows you what path it should be on to help you so you can try to hit it on that path. There's so many things that are coming from this, are coming out of this, that it's amazing. So yeah, even if TGL doesn't work, the technology that's coming from it is so freaking cool. So that being said, I like all of that. Now, I love that the players are mic'd up. That's cool, because so often we have no idea what the players are thinking or what they're saying. Here's the problem with that, is it's playing out exactly the way I thought it would. Because they were thinking, well, we'll mic up these players, and then you'll hear their interactions, and you'll get to hear them cut up. You'll get to hear them talk smack. You'll get to hear them strategize and all these things. But the reality is that so far, and it's not horror. It's not, I wouldn't say it's 100% this. It's probably 80-20 right now, or maybe even 70-30. But a lot of these players are still out there playing like they're on the tour. They're very, like even Tiger Woods. Like Tiger Woods comes out, you can tell he's excited. He's smiling. He's playing to the crowd. But while he's actually playing, at least in that very kind of beginning, you got serious Tiger out there. He's kind of quiet. He's honing in. He's trying to focus. He's trying to play his game. Tiger is one of those guys where he just puts his head down and stays focused. And that's how he plays his game. And that's kind of the way golf has to be played, because golf is one of those weird sports where you really can't nonchalantly just go out and hit balls. You do have to have some level of focus. They always say, well, you don't want to overthink it. Well, that's true, but you do have to think about it. You got to understand and execute. And that's why golfers are always so focused when they're playing golf, because they got to focus on what they're doing. If you get too lackadaisical and you start to lose that focus, you start to make mistakes. You make mental mistakes. And those mistakes tend to be, where's the ball going to go, right? Like, I need to put the ball right here. This is my safe zone. Well, if you're not thinking about what you need to do, then you're going to not do what you need to do to win. And so that's why it takes some level of focus. And you're seeing that. You're seeing these players kind of try to navigate that. They're trying to figure out, well, I need to focus on this shot, but at the same time, I got guys over here talking smack and we're all kind of cutting up. And you get a little bit of that. And you're getting it really from the players that we expect it from. So it's kind of playing out the way I thought. You got guys like Max Homa and Ricky Fowler. These guys are funny. They're really chill. They like to cut up. Ironically, these are guys that don't really win championships. They don't win tournaments very often. But they're also some of the funniest guys you watch on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like Max Homa's Twitter account is hilarious. He always posts some funny stuff. And that's what you get. Like those guys are the ones cutting up the most, and the other guys kind of react to that. You know what I mean? But even Tiger towards the end of that tournament or that game, he was getting loose. But I also think it's because he knew we lost, we got blown out, which I'll touch on that in just a minute. So the idea of these players being mic'd up, it is interesting. It's working to a degree, but I don't know if it's working enough. I was listening to the Pat McAfee show, and they made a comment of they need to get another announcer on there to kind of interact with the single announcer. They need to have somebody down on the field interviewing these players in between shots to ask them and get more involved. I agree with that. I think that's probably a good idea. That's what football does. That's what a lot of sports do. They get more people involved. They're kind of telling a story as you're watching it. It keeps you engaged. I agree that the engagement is an issue. Pat McAfee said that his wife has to watch a lot of sports because obviously he's in sports, right? He's got to watch sports to talk about it. That's his job. So his wife ends up watching a lot of sports, and she's not a huge fan. She was excited about this apparently. So they watched it, but after about 4 or 5 minutes, she was done. She was off in La La Land doing something probably on her phone or whatever. And I agree with that, especially on the first one. I watched the first one. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to watch it. And I started watching it. And then I found myself drifting. I found myself going and doing and occupying myself with something else. I had no issue getting up and going and doing something else. I wasn't really locked in. Now you could be like, well, Dave, that's just this generation. You guys have ADHD. You're just overstimulated. Well, it's like this whole point of TGL is to bring in the younger generation. It's like a video game, right? They're trying to appeal to the younger crowds. They're trying to make golf more exciting. They're trying to make golf more animated. That's what they're trying to do. And in a way, they're doing that. But there's the little things. There's like these nuances. There is a formula to sports and what we do to make you lock in and engage. We have interviews. We have the announcers talking. That's the beauty of it. If you ever watch enough football, I'll use that as an example, especially in college, because in college football, there's a lot of blowouts. How do you stay locked in? The announcers, they start talking, they start telling the story, you start getting almost engaged. It's like almost at this point, you're listening to a podcast more than you're actually watching a football game, because the game's over. This team's got blown out, but yet you're sitting here watching it still. And it's because there is a science to these guys talking, communicating, getting into the sports, talking about the overall field. Maybe they're talking about parity, some team that's got to work their way here or that. They're getting you locked in and engaged and keeping you engaged. Okay. The TGL guys got to figure that out. They need to figure out a way to, because what has happened the last two, this is a great segue. Holy moly, I just did a segue like nobody's business. This is a great segue. There have been blowouts. The problem with TGL, this is the biggest issue so far. Now, this could change. There has been 2 back-to-back blowouts. And, that's not necessarily their fault. We don't know if it's the format that's an issue. We don't know if that's going to be the norm. But here's the thing. Golf is kind of weird like that. Golf is strange in that you tend to have, especially in head-to-head matchups, and this is one of the reasons why I think they do stroke play more than any. Like, everyone's always said, well, why don't they do more match play? Why don't they do more of this or that or that? The reason is because I think stroke play gives more of an opportunity for players to have a balance in the system, because what you tend to see, and even stroke play is not perfect, in golf especially, it's just like you're either on or you're not on. You know what I mean? And you're either on or you're not on, or maybe you're 50%. There is those players that are like, I can hit the ball today. My approach is good, but I can't putt to save my life. Right. And I've always kind of said that, like, if you're not putting well, you're not going to win. And maybe that's an obvious thing to say, but that's just, it just seems like guys that are not hitting well off the tee box, if they're still putting really well, they can actually still win. Like, they can still, because the one thing about a pro golfer that's different than an amateur golfer is how you recover, right? Everybody hits bad shots. Pro golfers hit bad shots too. It's how you recover from those bad shots, and pros are very good at it. So if you're bad off the tee box, you're just not hitting the driver very well today, but you're putting really well, you could still win. But you flip that and you're not going to win. And so there's all this that tends to be the case in college, in golf. You have these sort of, he's on, he's not, and you get big gaps. Look at the Ryder Cup, big blowouts, right? It's just the way it is. Match play can go that way very easily. Doesn't always happen, but it can. And it happens, I think, more often than not. It's just one of those things, because golf is hard. Golf is a game of inches. It's a game of like millimeters, right? You can get down into the details, and you could play the hole just right. Okay. Both of you, like, let's just say each player hits the exact same shot, puts the ball at the exact same point on the green, right? And one guy just barely knocks his putt offline, just a hair, and now it doesn't go in. But the other guy, now he wins the hole. So, like, if you're having a hard time getting that putter dialed in, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. It's not going to happen. So that's the issue with a match play setup. And I think we're watching that kind of play out in real time. So if I had to make a biggest critique about TGL, first of all, I like it. I like TGL. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. It's new. It's different. And it has a lot of potential. It's got a great foundation. But I do think there might have to change the scoring. Now, if you don't know how the scoring works, it's pretty straightforward. The players play 15 holes. I don't know why 15 and not 18, but they play 15 holes. And I believe it's like half of it is three versus three. alternate shot. And if the way to best explain it is like, let's say you have a team of Tiger Woods and, Ricky Fowler and Rory McIlroy. I'm just making these teams up. That's obviously not the real teams, but I'm just giving you names. Tiger Woods would drive, Rory would do his approach, and then Ricky would putt, right? Because they're alternate. It's the same hole, same ball, but they alternate their shot. That's what that is. 3v3 alternate shot. That is a great idea because that's the best way in the format that they have right now to keep things kind of all over the place. Because when you have all these guys playing the same ball, now you don't know who's going to, they could all be cold. They could all be hot. One could be hot. One could, you know what I'm saying? It get a little more disparity. But, and then you go to a 1v1. Excuse me, a 1v1. And I think it's just the rest of the holes. And that's where I think I've watched the 1v1 now 2 times in a row. And it's honestly the problem I have with the 1v1 is by the time they get to the 1v1, the game's already over. And I know that they're all up there trying to think like, shoot, how do we sell this? How do we keep the people engaged? Because the other team, it's like 8-1, 6-1, 7-1, you know what I mean? And we're going into 1v1s. The other team's just not playing very well. And it could literally just be that the other team hasn't figured out this simulator formula. And that's another thing that the reason why I'm saying they need to change the scoring is because while the simulator is awesome, and it certainly is way better than probably any simulator you'll play at a local training facility. Like this thing is really high tech and seems very accurate. It's still giving the players fits. And there's a reason for that. One is because you don't have the natural, it's hard to portray what your eyes see in real life because golf is all kind of about depth perception in so many ways. Like you're looking and you're going, okay, I see especially on like short range shots when you're under 50 yards. When you're under 50 yards, you're playing off of your natural depth perception. Okay, I know I need to hit it this hard to get the ball here to roll there, right? Well, it's hard to do that sometimes in the simulator because it's kind of a artificial and it can mess with you. Even though they've done a pretty good job of making it 1-to-1 ratio, scale, it's still not perfect. You can see some guys struggle with that. But another thing too is you've heard guys, they hit I think it was Max Homa, he hit a ball and it went way left. And he was like, I didn't hit that. He's like, I hit that really well. I did not hit a slice or a hook or whatever. He's like, I didn't do that. Like, what in the world? You could tell he was frustrated because he goes, that's not what my ball should have done. And I saw the same thing again with another player too. He said, man, I hit that pure. And it just kind of was a dud. Now that could have been him just not, again, like with these simulators, you have to look at the statistics, the stats it's giving you. Is there a headwind? Are you hitting uphill? Because you don't know if you're hitting uphill unless you look over at the screen and look at where your ball's lying and what it is. You know what I mean? Because you're hitting on a flat surface, but in the simulator, in the video itself, it might be uphill a little bit. So your shot shortens 5 or 10 yards. You know what I mean? And I think they're all trying to figure that out. And so that's why I think we're probably going to have to change the scoring method. Because you're getting these blowouts, and if it can, I know they won't do it this year because they're already in the season. They're not going to change anything, but I think for next season, they should look into maybe like a Stableford sort of setup. If you're not familiar with a Stableford scoring, it's actually a really fun way to score your game. It's really great for amateurs because it kind of keeps them in the game. Traditional Stableford is you get a point. It's a point system for your strokes. So for instance, and you can do the points any way you want, but let's just say it's a total points. A birdie would be, or like an eagle would be 3 points. A birdie would be 2 points. A par would be 1 point, and a bogey would be 1 point, right? Or you could maybe shift that. Maybe an eagle's 4 points, birdie's 3, par's 2, bogey's 1 point. And the reason why you'll do that is because it was actually created by a guy who was always so frustrated that he didn't really have a chance to warm up. So his warm-ups were his first 2 or 3 holes. And so he wouldn't do very well. And then he would get into his groove, about 4 or 5 holes in, he'd get into his groove. And so he created a way to score himself in such a way that he wasn't being punished for the fact that he's not warmed up when he goes out on the course. Look, a lot of people go to golf courses, they don't have driving ranges. And even when you do have a driving range, if you're not playing golf every day, you're not truly warmed up. So this gives you an opportunity that when you bogey that first hole, or you can still get a point, right? Because it's a point system, especially if you're playing like a tournament. Stableford is a super fun way to play golf. If you haven't tried it, I would try it, especially if you're with a group of friends and you guys like to kind of get competitive. That's a great way to be competitive, because if someone's just having a bad round and they're hitting bogeys and double bogeys, they can still be in it. But I think that would probably be the way to do this going forward, because right now what we have is because there are guys that are making, there are guys that are winning these holes with pars and bogeys. You know what I'm saying? Like, not everybody is winning by making birdie. It's not like real life where when you're at like the Dell match play and you're watching guys, the guy who wins because he's birdieing, the other guy's making a par. You know what I mean? And so it's not like it would be this, it's not saying, hey, the scoring system wouldn't work because they're still winning on birdies every time. You know what I mean? That's not really the case here. Like the simulator is causing these guys to make mistakes. Dude, not even on the simulator, on the actual green, Tiger he sailed a 6-foot putt way past the hole. That was very uncharacteristic of Tiger Woods, but he totally missed that putt by like a mile and it went flying away by it. So my point to that is like, because these guys are making these sorts of mistakes, you can have this point system where it's like, hey, you know what? We haven't won the last 2 holes, but the last 2 holes were pars, so those guys got a point, but we won this hole and we got a birdie and we just got 2 points. So now we're tied. Well, now it becomes interesting. And that to me would limit the amount of, it would limit blowouts. I mean, again, if everyone keeps winning the hole, it may not happen, but the way you just want to hit your best score to score as many points. And that to me, and here's the thing, you can mix and match it, right? So you could say, all right, well, Dave, we'll do Stableford for the 3v3, but we'll go to a match style on the head-to-head, right? And look, they may have already played this out and said it just doesn't work. I don't know. But to me, that's probably the most, they've got to do something, because if the third game's coming up and if it's another blowout, they're going to have a real problem on their hands, because there's just nothing to keep you engaged. You know what I mean? There's no story. When you think about college football and you think of, or NFL football or basketball or baseball, when you think about sports and what keeps you engaged, it's so much like the drama of it all. Sometimes it's just the lead up that gets you locked into this game, but it's the drama, like the whole, like, oh, this, you know, you hear stories like, oh, this team was down and they were hurt and they crawled their way back up, and here they are down by 3 points in the fourth quarter to win it all. You're just like, oh my gosh, even if it's not your team, you're on the edge of your seat, you're watching it, you're going, holy, what's going to happen? Every game's not like that. I mean, like I said, there are blowouts, a lot of blowouts in things like college football. But the thing that they've done is they have people in there to keep your engagement. And the TGL does not have that. They don't have announcers that really keep your engagement when there's really no drama happening on the field or on the course, or in this case, in the arena. So all in all, I do like it. I think it's great. I think they're on the right path. It's way better than I thought it was going to be. When I heard about this, I'm like, this sounds dumb. I was quite impressed with what they have built and where they're going. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If you haven't checked it out, I would check it out. TGL. It's an interesting thing. Some people said that they don't like how long it is. I don't mind the length. I think the length is fine. They've got like shot clocks and things like that, which is kind of cool. I think maybe it might be a little interesting they might, because they have this thing called the hammer. And the hammer, when you throw the hammer down, it changes the score. I think it adds 2 points, right? So you throw the hammer, if the other team accepts, that hole now is worth 2 points instead of 1 point, which is kind of cool. And I think they've developed that in such a way to try to help teams that are down get back up. But the problem is like, again, you're either on or you're not. You're either playing well or you're not playing well. You know what I mean? Or you're either playing really well and the other team's just playing okay, is playing good but not good enough. That's the thing with golf. Like golf it's not like any other sport. You know what I mean? There's really no. It's such a close sort of game on how you have to play to win, and so that's why I really think they have to adapt some sort of Stableford setup for this, because otherwise you're just going to keep getting blowouts, and the hammer doesn't help, because when you throw the hammer down, we've seen it now for two games already. The team throws down a hammer to get 2 points to try and catch up. Guess what? They lose the hole. Now they just lost 2 more points. Now they just got a bigger gap, right? So now that doesn't really help, and it just made the blowout even worse. Now in theory, if they'd won and it made the score closer, you could say, well, that made it exciting. But the problem is if it doesn't work, it makes the game even less exciting. So they got to tweak this hammer thing. But I could also see maybe even having the flag change to where the shot clock is cut in half. Right? You throw it before you even start, and now your shot clock, instead of it being, I think it's 25 seconds, it could be, half of that. Like 12 seconds or something. That'd be kind of neat. Now you got a 12-second shot clock. Get up there and hit your ball, Just things like that would be kind of fun, just to throw a monkey wrench. I don't want it to get too Mickey Mouse and weird, but they could do some things like that would kind of throw the other team off. I do like that in the last game they iced the putter. I thought that was kind of funny. He was getting ready to make his putt, and then they called timeout. But the problem is he walked right back up and he made the putt and sank it. It was actually a long putt. I think it was like a 6 or 8 foot putt. Just Rose made. So it's just one of those things. Like, they got to work out the details. It's a new system. I think Liv went through it as well. Like Liv had to kind of figure it all out. Although I think Liv, for the most part, hasn't changed very much. As far as I know, they're pretty much the same. They may have fine-tuned some of the details as far as broadcasting and the way they broadcast, but ultimately it's kind of the same thing. And it worked out. It worked out really, really well. But again, TGL is pretty cool. I like it. Stableford scoring, I think, is going to be the thing that saves it. I think it makes it more interesting. Tighter games make for better sports, people. It's why the NFL remains popular. The average disparity in the NFL is 7 points. That's the average win. There's really no blowouts in the NFL. The average team wins by 7 points. That's how tight it is. And that's because you have the talent level, but that's also because it's a completely different sport, right? It's not like golf. It's not you don't really have one team, this is two talented teams that come together and both have a chance to win, both have a chance to rack up points. And ultimately, a lot of times in the NFL, it's just like who's the last team to score ends up being the team that wins. Not that way in golf. You're either on or you're not. And when you're not on, you're not winning. And then it just becomes a blowout. So they've just got to figure out a way around that, and I think they'll get it. I think they'll get it all figured out. That's it for this one. I think we touched on everything with TGL. I like it. If you haven't seen it, check it out, and we'll see you again here on The Rant. Thank you.